Good afternoon, my name is Hadzalo and I am a graduate student, and today I want to introduce to you the topic of my research entitled Analysis of Gender Marked Units Statistical Approach. So the agenda of today's report is the following. Firstly, we are going to talk about the purpose of the research. Secondly, we will discuss the difference in notions sex and gender. Our third and fourth stop are the link between language and gender and how, with the help of statistic methods, we can reach it. And finally, we will have a look on corpora as a linguistic tool to draw up the conclusion. So let's begin from the purpose. So gender-marked units always are in the interest of many linguists, and this type of figurative language units have a significant value when it comes to the verbalization of concepts. Gender differences in lexical units and their research makes a huge impact on the description of the male and female linguistic picture of the world. This research is an attempt to analyze the differences in the usage of these units, and the statistical approach for the linguistic research was used, and the effectiveness has been investigated. So then we should definitely understand what is the difference between gender and sex. In modern multivectoral society, the concept of gender has received many interpretations. In the 1970s, the term gender was defined as social cultural gender, while sex was understood as biological sex. American scientist Robert Stoller was one of the first psychiatrists who put forward the concept of distinguishing between these two definitions. It was he who interpreted gender as a category denoting psychological, social, and cultural differences, while sex represents a physiological or biological differences. And they do not necessarily have to correlate with the anatomical features. So the difference in the study of gender aspects of the language and speech has grown due to the two phenomena. The first one is the tendency to analyze the social environment, which influences communication. This is what we understand as human factor in the language. And the second is the active development of the feminist movement. And as we understand, analysis of the link between language and gender is a field of research in a large number of scientists, not only applied linguistics, but also cultural studies, psycholinguistics, social linguistics, feminist studies, and others. So what about gender affiliation? Definitely it has a strong imprint on the language at all levels. And there are a huge amount of different articles that follow this research topic. As for example, Robin Lakoff, in his article published in 1972, Language and the Place of the Woman, or Deborah Tannen in the book You Just Don't Understand Me. Also, some researchers as Daniel Mount, Liz Brocker, Mel Fishman, and many others devoted their work to the same research object. So there are main two questions that linguists are exploring. The first one is how a man and a woman are reflected in the language, and then the second is the differences in speech and communicative behavior of different sexes in general. So actually, despite the fact that gender-oriented research is in active development, still it is important to know that the tactics of speech behavior are difficult to match to their specific implementation by men and women. For example, Yelena Horoshko noted that the limited empirical material and the small number of conducted linguistic experiments can probably explain the high level of contradictory data in the field of gender linguistics. Lena Levchenko also noted that the results of gender studies in language are often unreasonable due to the lack of use of quantitative methods. So, statistical methods, as specifically targeted, are considered as one of the most effective and valid methods of researching of gender-marked units. So, this set of techniques and principles allow us to collect, systematize, and process and interpret the statistical data that is carried out in order to obtain scientific or practical conclusions. So these methods are really widely used nowadays in linguistics. Among Ukrainian researchers, we can mention Valentina Parabinis, Maria Zayat, Svetlana Romanyuk, Hanna Sitar, who analyzed the basics of statistics that may be useful for linguists, and they also gave some examples of their application. So it is not a surprise that the usage of these methods are relevant today due to the rapid development of information technologies. Let's now talk a bit about corpora in general. So in modern sense, what do we understand as a corpus? Corpus is always a computer database. And in the process of its creation and research, there is doubtless that the need for the use of these statistical programs. It is pretty reliable material for statistical analysis. We consider that using the corpus uh, is the most appropriate for a selection of factual research base, since only its orders and systems and they can ensure the accuracy of the quantitative data and the persuasive conclusion. In general, we have used two main corpora, the most reliable and the most widely used. The general information about corpora is mentioned on the slide, but I would like to draw up your attention to the advantages of COCA itself, because first of all, it is much bigger, and also the latest updates in March 2020, they allow us to download the corpus for offline use. And also what is interesting that the most frequent words now users can hear pronunciation of them, see videos and find the related images from Google. So for our research, we have gathered gender mark units, one that mentioned the gender of the referent, the tokens were proofread, and the encoding was checked. So with the help of both corpora, we are researching the peculiarities of collocation as a boy, as a girl. One of the most interesting criteria in the statistics is a relative frequency of an event. Mathematically, it is an absolute frequency normalized by the total number of events. Used corpora are counting relative frequency automatically. So the collected data demonstrate the quantitative predominance of the collocation in the COCA corpus. To depict the frequency distribution on the table, you can see the table on the left side. Also, COCA corpus allows us tracing the trend of given collocation usage in their diachronical aspect. So, judging by the frequency, we can make the conclusion that collocation as a boy is more productive than as a girl and was widely used in the texts of 2005 and 2009. Also, it is important to mention that the period of the biggest usage of both collocation is 1995-1999, and the average usage of them for a million words is 1.87. And the quantitative predominance of as a boy is an example of gender asymmetry, the unevenness of reflection in the language itself. It is depicted in the right table. To analyze the gender distribution of collocation as a girl, as a boy in corpora, we use the chart function. Using this function was investigated that collocation as a boy is mostly used in fiction prose, magazines, and newspapers. The distribution by genders of collocation as a girl is the most productive in fiction, magazines, and newspapers. The least productive genres are nonfiction and academic. In the figure on the slide, we can see the relative frequency distributed by genders. To get a deeper understanding of the overall picture of using gender-marked lexes in different periods and genders, we have also investigated the word gender itself. According to the obtained result, gender is more frequently used in COCA than in BNC. However, to compare to collocation as a girl and as a boy, gender distribution is completely different. It is more used in academic texts, magazines, and newspapers. Also, with the help of the chart, we investigated that the period of this collocation usage is similar, and the most productive years are 2005 to 2009. This result may be related to the growing number of non-fiction literature and the greater interest of society in gender issues. And you can see the results in this pie chart. diagram. So gender linguistics as a young science. So gender linguistics as a young science still needs advanced methods of research. One of the effective and valid methods are statistical, since they can mathematically confirm the obtained results. And the achievement of corpus linguistics greatly facilitates the data collection process for analysis, as it provides linguistic corpora of text that can serve as a powerful information and linguistic support for learning and researching of different aspects of the language. The analyzed gender-marked units are a prime example of realization of gender stereotypes on lexical level that take their place in the language. The research of lexical units extracted from corpora are created by applying stigmatic gender labels. However, in my opinion, the results should be verified on a wider feed and on the text of different styles. Further study of gender stereotypes in speech interaction has necessitated their consideration in a broader context within the overall structure of the communication. The prospects of further research is to improve the methods of gender linguistics that can contribute to a higher degree of representativeness of the research results. So thank you very much for your attention. My contact email is on the slide. I will be ready to answer your questions.